We often expect God to speak through a burning bush or a parted sea. We look for the spectacular, yet breakthroughs often begin disguised as mundane routines. On day 9, we see how Ruth moves into a season of prepared provision, starting with a single, simple choice. Naomi and Ruth had just arrived in Bethlehem. They were grieving, destitute, and by all appearances, entirely empty. They were starting over with nothing but the dust on their sandals. It is easy to trust God when miracles are visible, but what about the slow days? The days when you are just trying to survive and keep your faith alive? You might find yourself wondering if God is paying attention when nothing seems to be happening. Those uneventful days hold immense value. Recognizing them is the first step toward experiencing a harvest that God has already planted. Ruth walked into the fields driven by the immediate physical ache of hunger. Her decision to glean was a basic act of survival, the repetitive, exhausting labor of bending and lifting for hours under the sun. This passage from Ruth chapter 2 notes that her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz. From a human perspective, finding this specific field looked like a coincidence, but the context reveals a deeper orchestration. Ancient law required landowners to leave the edges of their harvest ungathered, specifically reserving grain for the poor and the foreigner. What we dismiss as chance is actually the precise execution of a meticulous system God established long ago. The law of gleaning was written generations before Ruth was born. It existed long before she was ever widowed or faced the prospect of starvation. Ruth's immediate, desperate need intersected perfectly with a safety net woven centuries earlier. This pattern shows how God operates. He prepares answers before we even know our questions. Because God's timeline stretches across generations, your obedience today connects to a much larger plan. Even on a quiet day where nothing feels significant, you are walking into a provision set in motion long before you arrived. We often wait for a dramatic, undeniable sign before we take action. We want the loud confirmation before we take a single step. Yet God's preferred method is to present us with an ordinary field. He provides a place to work and asks us to trust Him enough to simply enter it. Your field might be an unused skill, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, or a small opportunity to serve someone else. It rarely looks like a destiny. It usually just looks like work. Waiting for perfect conditions only delays the arrival of your harvest. Ordinary obedience is the prerequisite for the divine provision you've been praying for. Identify the specific field God is calling you to enter right now. Don't wait until you feel ready or until your circumstances look perfect. Whatever field you step into today, God has already gone ahead of you to prepare what you need. Once you are in that field, you will see how the quiet power of diligence creates opportunities that talent alone cannot reach. Take that first unglamorous step. It is the only way to walk out of the famine and into the provision God has already made radiant for you.